Welcome back to another episode of the CIO Water Cooler. I'm your host, Neil C. Hughes, and today I want to explore the world of CS and customer contact and what businesses can do to accelerate their performance. And today I've got the perfect guest to do just that. Dennis, for everybody watching, could you tell everyone a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, thanks. So Dennis Parker, I'm responsible for the Amazon Connect partners here at AWS within EMEA. So work really closely with the team at Gamma on the adoption of Amazon Connect into the marketplace. Amazon Connect being a CCaaS offering that we provide to the market.
Awesome. Thank you, Dennis. And Rick, over to you. Could you tell everyone watching a little about you too?
Sure, thanks. I'm Rick Farrow. I'm currently the IT and Transformation Director for the Financial Ombudsman Service. Career spanning 20 years, mainly in central government around CIO, CTO sort of capabilities.
So, Richard, can you tell everyone watching a little about who you are and what you do?
Thanks very much, Neil. So Richard McPhee, I'm the Solutions Director for a communications service provider called Gamma here in the UK and Europe. We provide enterprise communication solutions to enterprise and public sector throughout. And my main role is to make sure that we have the right stuff in our kit bag to help solve business problems. And that also incorporates customer experience applications like Amazon Connect.
And Richard, just to set the scene for our conversation today, there's so much I want to get through. So can you tell me a little bit more about how organizations are competing on CX and also the importance of a dedicated enterprise strategy?
Sure. So it's no surprise in many organizations where customer experience is really important. It's always been a primary top driver for companies. But I think these days it's just more important than ever because of the visibility online with social media and other websites like that. I mean, there's dedicated stuff. Think about Glassdoor, where your employees actually say who you are and how well you perform, and TripAdvisor, on the other hand, on a commercial side, for everybody saying how well or how well they don't like such and such about your business. And surprisingly enough, we've got access to many analyst reports that say the top 5 reasons that somebody would come to you looking for business are also the same 5 reasons why they would avoid coming to you. And that really is the experience they've had interacting with you. So obviously that is contextual in terms of the type of business you're in, where some local government and organisations, depending on the services they provide, it may not be as apparent and implemented in the same way as customer experience, but certainly for large consumer brands out there, it could be make or break. So having this actually embedded now at the top level as part of a true part of your enterprise strategy to deliver on your expectations from your customers is key more now than ever, especially as it's a very crowded marketplace and differentiating can be tough. But really now your reputation means a lot.
Thanks, Richard. And if we all pretend we're consumers for a moment, I think we all now routinely expect to communicate through different channels such as email, chat, voice, WhatsApp, text, all depending on whatever device we've got closest to hand. So, Dennis, I'm curious, how are you seeing businesses unifying these digital channels?
Yeah, thanks. That was a really interesting point. So one of the things that comes to me quite often is people say, what do you perceive to be the channel of the future for these businesses we work with? And is it web chat? Is it social channels? Is it still voice? Voice is still so prominent in the contact center market. And I think what I kind of come back to, if you think about this really from the consumer perspective, it's whatever channel that customer wants to contact you on is the channel of choice and the channel of the future. And then back to Richard's point before, there's so much choice now. The technology is one piece that feeds into this kind of channel shift approach, but it's understanding the process that sits behind the availability of those channels within the organization, the ability to share that data. Because one of the things for me as a consumer, if I just take this as personally, is I want that consistency. I don't want to keep ringing. If I ring in and I provide my information, I expect them to know who I am. I expect it to be personalized. If I contact you on chat, it's the same thing. If it's social media, it's the same thing. So providing that consistent customer experience is sometimes a point that is overlooked a little bit when people are looking at pure innovation within technology. So yeah, I think it's really important to understand the process and the strategy that sits behind the technology as you look at how you introduce that into your market or via you as a customer.
100%. And Rick, I'm curious, what are you seeing here around businesses and that challenge of unifying these digital challenges?
I think it is a challenge, but it's also a huge opportunity. So, having worked in the NHS for quite a while, if you think of the paradigm from which patients like to things like book an appointment or arrange for a repeat prescription, there are really easy ways of doing these things, but it's definitely generational to me. So, whereas you or I, Gen Xers on this call would be happy making a phone call or dropping a piece of paper in a box at your local GP surgery, our kids and grandkids, they'd be horrified at having to do that sort of thing and would expect to be able to tick a box in an online form and that just arrive at the door. So I think you can't be understated the context of what you're trying to do with this omni-channel approach, and how that's going to affect the demographic of who you're actually serving as part of your products and services.
And Richard, anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, just outwardly speaking, the most popular method and channel that we're seeing rise up just now is WhatsApp, and to be honest, it's my personal favorite as well. I hate phoning in, sitting in a queue, waiting for an hour to be told that my call's very important, and then when I get connected, getting shut off and turned off, saying that the operational times are now come to a close. But so we're seeing loads and loads and loads of requests for that, and we're helping lots of customers set that up as part of their contact center. But just to touch on Den's point, though, which is really important, is the technology is not really the difficult part here. We see lots of tenders and people going out to market looking for a technology that has everything, but really it's the operational and business setup that is a challenge for most people. And what I mean by that is that traditionally a business is set up to interface in these different channels and manage them in different departments. So marketing potentially on the social channels, some sort of inbound lead gen from the website, etc. And having to map that process out in terms of managing the communication flow into a central point is quite difficult. So that now touches many, many different parts of the organization. So I think we're seeing lots of real interest in omnichannel, and it's been around for a while. The technology sets are there to allow us to do that in terms of bring it in. I think a real focus for people in terms of in that future is how do you actually put a communication layer over the top that roots them all in and gets them to the right person, but not only that, has the right context and history, like Dan says, to make sure that the query doesn't bounce around and you have people asking the same things 4 or 5 times. But yeah, that was probably where I'm seeing things go, Neil.
Fantastic. And of course, we've made it to 10 minutes here without mentioning AI. But as we record this today, I think AI has been added to the Collins Dictionary as their word of the year. It's all anyone's been talking about. Business leaders are trying to work out, what does this mean for me? What does it mean for our business? So can you walk me through a real world use case that will just help people listening understand beyond a buzzword and how they can unlock value using AI in their business? And Dennis, I'll throw that one to you.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Neil. And what I'll do is I'll touch on a scenario or an engagement with a contact center and a few of the different touch points to highlight the use cases that exist. Definitely don't overlook the point Richard made again around the strategy that sits around this, or the business's ability to adopt some of these AI and now generative AI type solutions. But if we imagine that initial interaction with an Amazon Connect customer, so you contact, you could be met with a conversational AI chatbot that is able to talk to you and understand the information around you and personalize that initial interaction. But what we're also doing is capturing the intent and the reason that you're coming to this. If you layer on top of that across any channels, doesn't just have to be voice, the ability to use something like Amazon Bedrock and an LLM off the back of that to contextualize some of the information coming back. Actually, I've really got quite a strong ability to self-serve that customer via conversational AI, deflecting that call in its entirety or that interaction from hitting an agent. An agent is a true cost in the contact center, right? So I think that's the kind of upfront piece. Yeah. If you imagine an escalation from that point to an agent, so it comes through to me as a contact center agent, I know all of that context from that initial part of that interaction based on the AI. And then I'm able to serve that customer contextually, understanding what they've said. And if you layer on top of that something like real-time analytics and sentiment analysis, I'm able to understand from the spoken word what to feed my agent from an agent assist perspective. So if we imagine these agent assist use cases, and what we're really trying to achieve there is the ability for the agent to serve the customer quickly, efficiently, but stop the reason for a callback as well, right? Because first contact resolution, if you've been around in this space for long enough, is still a huge thing, and it's still something that not everyone's managed to crack. So adding in some of these tools then to, post call analytics on the back of that interaction. So I've used analytics real time to guide the agent on potential offers, potential upsell opportunities. Then I use analytics at the end of the call to summarize everything that was said into, this could be an hour-long call in certain industries, right? So how about I take that generative AI, boil that down to a nice consumable call resolution state, and put that back into the system. But the other advantage you've got there is from that call summarization, I'm able to say, okay, I've called in today. Maybe I called into the contact center to say I need to reset my password because I want to renew my mortgage because the interest rates in the UK are interesting at the moment. What if I, as an agent, just reset that password and I let that go? And it comes back to Richard's point about what we expect from a CX perspective with the companies we work with. I've missed an opportunity there as the customer to potentially upsell a mortgage by not treating that call efficiently. And I've actually let my customer go off into the wild and potentially look at other options. So what we're able to do there is kind of closed loop feedback on the exact reason for that interaction. And we have tools within Amazon Connect that can highlight to you the reason for that call and then any follow-up actions that come out the back of it to give you that closed loop feedback that says, okay, don't forget, then you took an action to contact that customer and send them the newest interest rates. If I do that, the likelihood is either I retain that customer or they don't have to contact again. If they don't contact me again, then we're deflecting additional callbacks from the contact center. So that's kind of the one in the middle from that perspective. And then if you look at general contact center management use cases around AI and generative AI, I'm able to use a large language model to interrogate that summarization of the call and ask what the perceived CSAT would be based on the things that I know. Anyone in a contact center, guys, has just always been looking for what are the markers or what are the things that I can see that denote what the perfect call is? What is the perfect interaction from an upsell or from a quality perspective? And we're able to now interrogate these calls and say, well, what do I think the CSAT would be from that? And if you start to embed that into the feedback mechanisms that coaches and supervisors and team leads have with their agents already, you've got a really strong closed loop feedback on performance that kind of evolutionizes what we've all been doing for a long time around quality monitoring into the contact center. So there are a lot more use cases than that, but I'm very conscious about how long we could talk about AI and where it stands at the moment. But I think that for me shows you kind of a few key interaction points across the journey of a customer that really highlight the importance of AI and generative AI.
Such important points, Danny. So I think when we say words like AI, like automation, it can be incredibly daunting and overwhelming for business leaders. And many business leaders that are watching this, they'll be at the very beginning of their story. So everyone's on that journey. So for any organization that's looking to improve CX, what are the best places to start? Because they're getting bombarded with things like AI and automation, etc. Rick, what would you advise here?
Well, I guess for me, the journey into AI, I think I take a sort of iterative approach to it. So the Ombudsman at the moment, we're investing heavily in intelligent automation. So if you think of handling a legal case in reference to review, there's a lot of opportunity there for, screen scrape and store, automatic triage, auto response at various parts of the case, updating that information in relation to keeping both clients and respondents updated for their case as it progresses through a legal process. So there's a huge amount of effort going in and really, really strong return on investment, actually, in relation to bringing down the time it takes to process and respond to a case all the way into how much it costs to actually take case types through a process all the way to a logical conclusion and decision. So the reason we haven't jumped straight into AI is because there are elements of that process that need to be contextually understood, referenced to many other conditions that would be kind of complicated to actually program an AI to do. And it needs that human element of introspection as part of a contextual arrangement. And we've had everything from someone sold me a dog and it was the wrong sort of dog to my holiday insurance didn't cover someone shark biting my leg off. So all of these things would be really quite difficult and nuanced to actually program a system to do. So really the investment in the automation part of this is looking at that standard end-to-end process and chunking it up into a probability to say, well, actually, if we applied AI there, it would save us half a day a week. It would save us 3 days a week. It would save us, this amount of admin resource. So we are talking in the orders of multiple millions of pounds per year in relation to leveraging AI in a way that is really going to help that end-to-end case management piece. Whether or not AI is going to be whether it would ever get to a place where it could actually make a legal decision, I think that's a bigger question, and that's a question for regulators and lawyers more than IT and technology people. My general feeling is I think it eventually could get there, but it would still need a human intervention at the end to augment that decision and agree it rather than making it outright. So I think AI for me, we all know it's the buzzword of the moment. We all know it's really exciting, but certainly intelligent automation and machine learning is where the legal and certainly a lot of central government bodies are looking at the moment in relation to augmenting what they do under their current organizational design and paradigm rather than replacing it with an AI fully.
100% with you. And if we were to wrap up our conversation today, I'm conscious the three of you will be having many conversations with customers all around the country and indeed beyond. So, Richard, I'll come to you first with this. Are there any other significant trends in CX that you're seeing at the moment from those conversations you're having?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess Dan's actually touched on quite a few of them today. I know that we specifically asked about things like AI, etc., but within there, you may have noticed that he touched on a few points. And just as you're talking about where would somebody start with CX and the best place to review it with Rick there, I think it was quite obvious that you got to start at the starting point, which is one, know what the heck it is you're trying to achieve for a start, get your business leaders aligned on this and know what success looks like. And a lot of these innovations and trends we're seeing, Neil, are driven actually by the adoption of cloud, because some of these things are just impossible to provide on-prem. And actually, there's a stat out there, I think it was a Mitel report, where only 30% of organizations have actually truly embraced CCaaS and moved to the cloud just now. So the big trend that we're seeing is actually step in point one, which is that planning and migration. So it's on-prem systems are just really difficult to provide true scalability, enabling flexible remote working and accessing these tools. So a big trend that we're seeing right now is just a basic shift in migration and a transition. Beyond that, though, in terms of some of these big trends, it's all about customer self-serve. So again, just to touch on some of the points that Dan made in his examples there, the concept is not to have agents not talk to people. That should never be it in customer experience and customer success. It's more about just making sure that the query is dealt with and handled in the most effective manner. So what is that quickest time to resolution so that people don't have to actually speak to anyone where they don't need to, or where they do need to speak to them, they do get access to the people, but with the fastest way to get their query resolved. So the customer self-serve part is huge. And in the context of it is that we've got all these different cool stuff out there, like AI, automation, we're talking contextual, blah, blah, blah. But right at the start, when I said you have to understand what the metrics of success are, it's one thing getting the metrics, but how do you actually then measure the success through the tools? And that's where analytics really comes into play. So it's one of these ones that kind of gets tagged on at the end, which is a bit crazy because you have to know how you're measuring and what you're measuring against to get success. And analytics is much more these days than just, call abandonment rates, wait times. Those are very important stats. Don't get me wrong, we need to measure them, but now we're moving into much more sentiment analysis to show how are we improving these stats throughout the call, how many calls are deflected. And when we say deflected, we mean how many calls have been handled automatically without having to be either connected to a human agent, or when they were connected, they were given and directed to the right place to resolve first time as well. So analytics is absolutely massive as well. So I would say that those are the two big ones for me. It's definitely the analytics and customer self-serve. But before all of that, right now, if people out there who are listening to this are finding that they're still on-prem, they're definitely not alone, and they're planning their journey in time with lots and lots of people around about them.
Yeah, it is an important point that's often forgotten as well, that you were mentioning there. You can only improve what you measure, of course. And Dennis, are you seeing anything as well? I mean, we've covered a lot today, but is there anything else you've seen?
Yeah, I think just to echo some of Richard's points there, I think if I talk to an organization and say, can you tell me the top 10 reasons someone called you last week? In a lot of cases, they can't answer that question, or they go off of a call closure state, which is in a lot of cases very alphabetical towards what sits the top in the drop down, right? So I think it's unlocking the ability to innovate, I think, is the important point that resonates back to Richard. That's definitely something we're seeing. There's a lot of amazing use cases for personalization. There are a lot of organizations that we interact with as consumers that are giving great customer experience, Amazon, for example. And then if we look at the evolution of that, we want to try and avoid that innovation in isolation. So you have to have that consistency. I have to be able to treat people equally, offer personalization, but I need to know what I'm working back from, to Richard's point. Like, where am I starting with this strategy? If I look at a deflection strategy, deflection isn't just a case of avoiding that contact. You're still trying to serve that customer and maintain that good CSAT score, keep that person happy. But if you don't know some of these things, it's a really hard place to look at where to start. Once you're in the cloud with something like Amazon Connect, you could switch Contact Lens, which is our analytics tool. You can switch it on for a month, switch it back off. Because it's pay-per-use, you don't pay for it anymore. But then you've got that contextual information that says these are all the reasons why someone contacted you, and that helps you drive your ongoing CX evolution strategy. So I think for me, there's a lot of good things that are happening. I think there's a lot of people that are in this point of like, wow, there's so much happening. How do I adopt this? And how do I make sure that I can unlock these innovations? And I think we're at a pivotal point in time at the moment where the tools exist with things like Amazon Connect that can allow you to unlock these innovations, give you the data to seed where you want to go next, and work with you as part of your evolutionary CX journey.
And Rick, anything that you'd like to add to this?
So yeah, I guess it all comes down to the things that we know matter. It's about the value proposition. It's about contextual alignment for the industry and the business, and more than anything, it's the ability to select the right tool for the job. Which I can say I haven't always got right, but working with great guys like Dennis and Rich, we can make sure we see that return on investment for the business by selecting the right tool.
Well, as I said a few times now, we've covered so much today, exploring the future of customer contact, some of the trends, where we're heading, on how we can head forward on this journey. But Rick, Richard, Dennis, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Neil.
Thanks
for the time.
And please remember, check out the CIO Water Cooler website, where you'll find many more discussions like this. And I'll see you next time.